Air Jordan 3 Fire Red.
We do it like this, like this, like this. Like this, like this, like this. Like this, like this, like this. Like this, like this, like this.
Alright, so what's up YouTube? Another quick pickup video for you here today. Obviously it's the Air Jordan 3 in the Fire Red colorway. I brought the whole family out for the video. Got the 07, got the 2013, and then of course the most recent 2022 pair. We'll start with these. I mean, what's it to be said that hasn't been said already? I know by the time this video is up, you know, the shoe's already released. Obviously there's some people who have their reviews up and stuff like well before the shoe's even out. So I know you guys already have, you know, impressions of these. Most likely you all have your pairs already, but I still want to, so I have this, you know, this channel here. It's my sole perspective, so I like to give my perspective on things. And man, you know, this is one of those shoes where, or let me say, this is one of those releases where you start to look at Nike and Jordan brand. It's like, oh, okay, this is what you're capable of. This is what you can do. Okay, so you know, when I shoes like this, releases like this, it justifies, and at least to me, it justifies when I'm constantly on Nike and Jordan brand as far as things they aren't getting correct that I know they can, because every now and again they go ahead and decide to prove and show, yeah, we can get it correct if we want to. It just seems like most of the time they just choose not to for whatever reason. But there's very little to complain about with these. Very little. They're not perfect. They're not perfect by any means, but this would fall under what I call the golden era of retros as far as Jordans, like 99 to 03. As far as modern era, I should say, because obviously you have the 94 and 95s, but that's kind of separate. But 99 to 03 is like that golden era of modern Jordan retros. And if these could have come out back then, and they would have fit right in for the most part. For the most part, as far as the shape, the materials, the general build quality, like these are Jordan 3s as I remembered them from that time. And it's, I mean, I guess you know, you could say the third time was the charm, because on the first two retros they just couldn't get right, and now finally they finally come correct with the Fire Red 3. Once again, it's not perfect, but the leather is nice and soft to the touch, as it's supposed to be with Jordan 3s. Michael wanted a shoe that was broken in already, so you know, the whole point of them tumbling the leather upper wasn't just to give it a texture. That was just kind of an effect of tumbling, but it was to soften the leather already, so that when he hit the court in them, they're already broken in, and then he still had support in other areas where he needed it. But for the most part, the upper of the shoe was broken in already. So they use a really nice leather. It's nice to the touch. It's soft. like one of the things that you can always tell with leather is like when you go to pinch it, does it crease around, or not crease, but kind of just like crinkle up around where you're putting that pressure. And like these certainly do that. I have 2 pairs of these. This pair isn't overly tumbled as far as the texture, but the other pair does have the texture a little bit more, which that's something normal. That's normal on 3s as far as the originals, the 94s, and then the 01, 03 3s, where because we're dealing with natural materials here that come from animals, and so they're not going to be uniform. And I'm sure that the tumbling, they don't tumble in the tumbler exact same way, so they don't all come with that exact texture. So when you have shoes like these, where that tumble effect is uniform, that tells me, or anyone who's paying attention, that these most likely were not actually tumbled. Especially since when you feel these, it's not even that soft, it's actually kind of firm. Because that tumbling effect is not supposed to be uniform across the leather like that. So most likely this is just like, they just put it on like something that like embossed and just put the texture on there, and they didn't tumble those at all. But these are legitimately tumbled, at least it seems like it, because once again, it's not uniform, it's not supposed to be. And they're still working on the toe. I know with the 2020s, I think it was that red Chicago version. Ever since then, they kind of tapered down the shape of the toe. They're lowering the elephant print like how it was on the original. It's still not perfect. It's not quite as low as it is or was on the original. And then a lot of times you get like, I don't know if you can see it, like right here. You see it doesn't come across straight. Like it comes up, it's a little high, and then it kind of dips down just a little bit, then kind of dips back up a little bit. So that line across the top isn't like perfectly straight, where on a lot of originals, even though the height might have varied a little bit, that line, that elephant print line across the top was usually perfectly straight. So that's something they still got to work on. Want to be nitpicky here, like the stars here on the toe, the way it sticks out like that only started with the 07 Retro 3s. If I pull out like an 01 or an one second. I actually have a pair of 3s right here. Oh shit. These barely look safe to take out of the box now. But here are my 2001 Black and Cement 3s. As you can see, they've seen better days. But the main thing I wanted to point out was the stars on the toe were a completely different texture. Like you see, they didn't, I'll put it up to the camera, they didn't stick out nearly as much as they do now. As you can see, this is the Black and Cement. You see the stars are a little more subtle versus the newer 3s, that the stars really stick out. You can see them there. Whew, yeah, these are, you see that? Man, let me put these back down. Hold on, but I got them out. You see this leather though? You see this leather though? Woo! All right, back to the Fire Reds. This is in the Black Cement video. All right, as you can see, I don't do these videos. I don't edit them overly. This is kind of straightforward and raw. Things happen. All right, so yeah, back to the Fire Red 3s. So yeah, the toe, that's one thing that they've gone through since the 07 generation of 3s, and they haven't changed that back. That's not really a big deal. That's kind of nitpicky. It is what it is with the stars. The elephant print, as far as this particular colorway, that was one thing that myself and many others, they didn't get it right on the 07 3. This was the first one to have this like super dark, super dark elephant print, basically black. In person and lighting, it is like, it's a very dark gray, like a dark charcoal. The original Fire Red 3 was darker than the other colorways, but it wasn't that damn dark. So this is an obvious difference on these. So when the 13s were dropping, I kind of was like, that was one of the things I had in mind, that okay, are they going to fix the elephant print and they're going to correct the elephant print color? And obviously the answer was no. They literally, like, these two pairs are basically identical. The 13s have a little bit better materials, a little bit, but for the most part, that's kind of it. Maybe some differences in shape, but neither one is really close to what it's supposed to be. So these two are pretty much identical, and then they finally made those improvements here. Now this elephant print is, we're gonna be nitpicky, it is a little bit lighter than it should be. Like this, if you go and look at pictures of original 3s, all of them have darker elephant print than what we've become accustomed to. Like if you look at an original white cement 3 and then the 94 white cement 3, the 94 white cement 3, that elephant print is noticeably lighter than the original, and that kind of stayed that way, for the 01 and 03 retros as well. If you go back and look at the black cement I just pulled out, that elephant print is way lighter than any of the originals. So this shade of gray is kind of really what maybe it's a little darker than what the other original 3s generally had. If you go back and look at pictures, and it's a little lighter, just a smidge lighter than what it should be for these, but not enough to really complain about it. I'm not tripping. I'm just fucking happy that we don't have this dark shit again. And then they didn't go all the way and just make this a regular gray. It's darker than the regular gray, but not as dark as this. Thank you, Jordan Brand. You're working on it. You're getting there. So I'm not tripping over it. It's, once again, things aren't always perfect, but it's not always at a level that's worth making a real complaint about either. So I'm happy with the elephant print. I'm happy with the shape. I'm happy with the leather. For the most part, I'm happy with the tongue that they've changes that they've made with the tongue. Like as you can see with these, like these tongues, like these two tongues are almost completely different. Like this is a synthetic, like purely synthetic. This is probably a synthetic, but it has like a fake tumbled texture on it, and then it's like hella covered in like a polyurethane coat. Like you can see, like this one is, the leather on these is like hella shiny because of the heavy coat on it. So with the tongues, they definitely corrected that, and they went back to wrapping the leather over the top. And then things have come a long way since the 80s. So like, if you go like original tongues on the 3s, like the stitch across wasn't always perfectly straight. It was kind of weird. But this is like perfect. So you can't complain about that. And then of course, I mean, we know what it is with this, man. This is something that those of us that have been around for Nike Air originally, and then when it was taken away, now that it's back, I try not to take it for granted. I mean, it's been back since 2015, and I just all I can do is think about those days where I was just pining for Nike Air to come back, so these shoes could look how they're supposed to look. It doesn't take much thought, and it's just like so much appreciation that they finally did the right thing. Brought Nike Air back. I shouldn't have been gone in the first place. I remember, now that I'm thinking, when these were gonna drop, these dropped March of 2007. There were little rumors, that Nike Air was gonna come back for these. It was these, and then the black and silver 5s dropped that January 2007. And there were rumors that Nike Air was gonna come back then, but it didn't happen. So it was years later, we got a whole nother retro, it still didn't happen. And so finally, when I picked the shoe up and I look at that big, beautiful Nike Air on the back, man. Man, so many years of frustration, so much, pining for this design, at the heel to look how it's supposed to look for this shoe. I can literally stare at this all day. I've been seeing all over the internet, because now people have, True Blues, black cements, a version of a white cement, whether it's, the Frito Lines, the Timberlakes, or the 88s, and now these. So all the 3s have come back with Nike Air, so we can do all those old pics that we used to do, like from the early 2000s, with all the Nike Air showing. And it never gets old, man. It never gets old. And I think because it was gone for so long, I know me and probably many others, we have even more appreciation for it now than we did before. You know how it is, you don't really miss something until it's gone. And then if it comes back, you have a different appreciation for it than what you had before. You might have taken it for granted a little bit before. So I'll never take for granted this Nike Air. I know some of you younger heads might be like, what is, okay, the Nike Air, big, like, you know, whatever, Nike Air Jumpman, you know, whatever. Yeah, you kind of had to be there. You kind of had to be there. You kind of had to have like an appreciation for that original design, and like that being all you know, to, you know, and then have that transition to the Jumpman. You're like, what is this? Like, I don't like it. It's different. It's a change. It doesn't look right. And then for so many years you want it to come back and it doesn't. Having to deal with people on, you know, on NT, you know, they're trying to say, oh, just give it up, man. It's never coming back. You know, and not wanting to give in, and just like, you know, it'll come back eventually, and then sure enough, they finally do the right thing and it comes back. So the Nike Air being back on these can't be understated, can't be, you know, unappreciated. And then obviously as well, just the full Nike branding. So Nike Air on the insole, Nike on the outsole as well. Both of the other pairs, like this one has the Jordan on the outsole. This one also has the exact Jordan on the outsole. I mean, the comparison between the three is, like I said, these two are pretty much identical, even though they have their differences, but neither one of them are really close with the original. I mean, just, I gotta kind of be careful because this pair, the heel tabs are completely crumbling. Like if you see, these are, like this heel tab is completely crumbling. This is actually tripled up. I tripled up on the 07s, and this is one of my DS pairs. I only doubled up on these, but I wore them both, so I don't have a DS pair. But just kind of looking at some of the differences relative to these, if you see, I think, let me make sure. Okay, they're all in camera. Yeah. The gray, the cement gray varies really between these two and these. This one has like a little bit of a darker gray, which is, I believe, is actually a little closer to the original. The size of the perforations, like if you can see on this pair, the perforations in the tongue and then back by the ankle, they're like little pinpricks, you know, they're barely there. And then on the 2013 pair, they're a little bigger. They're, you know, a little bigger, a little more noticeable. But really on these, you know, they came correct. Where you can see it's like much bigger, much more noticeable with the perforations on the ankle and on the tongue. For the most part, the shade of red is pretty much the same. This one does seem to have a little more body to it, but the shade of red wasn't ever really an issue as far as keeping these accurate to the original. They've all had a nice, bright, vibrant red. I mean, for the most part, that's kind of it as far as the major differences. It's the, you know, the leather quality, the shape, the color of the elephant print, the perforations, and then of course, you know, the Nike branding. I don't want to ramble on too much. Yeah, it's already been damn near 20 minutes, and that's not even counting the on foot that you saw. So yeah, I'm gonna leave it at that as far as the comparison, and then just the review of the Fire Red 3s. I'm looking forward to the reimagined white and cement 3s next year. I don't like that they're doing the, you know, the whole aging thing with them. I prefer a fresh pair, but I'm expecting, you know, the bar's been raised with these now, so I'm expecting them to basically be like these, but just the white and cement colorway, and then whatever little aging nonsense they're gonna do with it. So Jordan Brand, Nike, leather, all that better be on point for my white and cements. White and cement 3s are my favorite 3s, and it's not even close. So I'm hoping that they definitely come correct with these, but that's gonna be it for this one. I'm not even gonna ask you which one you prefer. You better prefer this one. You better prefer this one. But yeah, that's gonna be it. If you enjoyed this content, if you would, please, I'd appreciate it if you just do all that good YouTube stuff for me. Like, comment, share, and subscribe, and I will see you on the next one. Peace out.